is Short-Term Rental Management, the show that is all about short-term rental property management with your host, yours truly, Luke Carl. There you are. Look at you. Look at you. Let me gaze upon you.
How you doing?
My friend, well, hold on. This is going to be a long intro, and the reason I started it that way is because I know you're a Stern fan. But anyway, so an Ababa Booey to you. So this is a very close friend of mine for quite some time, way longer than we've been in, well, at least, but I've been in real estate. I didn't even know that one another was in real estate when we first met. Lot in common: biker, long hair, rock and roller, and badass extraordinaire, Mr. Pavan. How you doing, brother?
Good to see you, my friend. I think life is good.
It's a little weird because we talk on a regular basis, almost every day, which I enjoy. I do consider you to be one of my five, because they say your five closest friend, you're like the average of your five closest humans, right? And I'd like to think you're one of my five. And I'm not going to let you give me up. So if anybody else is trying to squeeze in on you, you'd have to get rid of me, and that's not going to happen.
I got you, boo. We're good.
So anyway, you've been on Avery's show,
Yes.
although you do remain a bit elusive in the world, which is probably a good thing. But tell us a little bit about yourself. I actually don't even know how many doors you're up to right now. So give us a little rundown of your real estate career.
So we're up to 30 short-term doors at the moment. We're pregnant with one more coming online, being delivered at the end of February. So I'm all in a short-term rentals. I've 1031'd all my long-terms away. People tell me I'm crazy for going all in on one asset class, but I also feel like we're diversified because we have different markets. We made it through hurricanes, we made it through fires, we made it through pandemic. So I'm feeling pretty confident in our strategy moving forward. And I know you and I talk about the whole long-term doors and getting into that, but for now, my system's working and I'm too lazy to change it.
Yeah, I don't think it's the fact that you're only in one asset class. It's the fact that you're only in short term that makes me, you know what I mean? That's like, whoa. Because I always preach, 6 or 7 of these things is really where you want to be. And after that, you're going to drive yourself nuts with these reviews and things. But you're living proof that it can be done. And of course, you got a lot of systems in place. Let's talk about that briefly. Although today I do want to, the bulk of the show today, I think we're going to focus on preparing for busy season, because I know you're a systems guy. So, but briefly, let's talk about it. I mean, how the hell do you do that? I know you retired from your quote unquote day job at young age, 40, late 40, not even, right? 46.
48 when I left corporate America, almost 5 years to this year, actually this day, actually 23rd of January. It's my 5-year anniversary of being free from corporate America, no more W-2 for either of us. So it's been a great boon.
Yeah, I remember. It seems like it was yesterday, honestly.
It does.
And I always looked up to you. I'll tell that story briefly. So you and I, we met in the rock and roll world, where you're both, you can't tell because he's either on your headphones or his hair's pulled back. Either way, you can't tell. He's a long hair and a biker and the whole 9 yards. And Pavan and I know each other from the rock and roll world. And we were sitting at a bar. This was the way I remember it anyway. We were sitting at a bar in Nashville, and for some reason we ended up talking about deadbolts. And this was years and years ago. Like, Airbnb was new at the time, really. And I was like, how the hell do you know? I was talking about, at the time, I think I was using a Quickset. And you were like, yeah, I'm using this other deadbolt. I'm like, wait a minute. And then it just clicked that, holy crap, I had cabins in the Smokies, and you had vacation rentals on the beach. And so we had that in common on top of everything else. And it's been a match made in heaven ever since. I don't know if you remember it differently. We were drinking a lot at the time.
I remember a little differently because I remember we had this conversation like 3 times before that kind of stuck for the third one.
Okay. Yeah. I definitely have a memory issue. There was a lot of booze involved too.
A little bit.
Back in the day. But yeah, so Pavan's OG, just to make it perfectly clear, this guy is OG. You've had vacation rentals, I think, since before Airbnb existed, have you not?
Since 2011, we got into the game as a hobby. And then, like I said, about 5-6 years ago, we decided to make a full run at that as a business. So Yeah, we started 2011 with our first beach condo in Siesta Key. It was supposed to be our retirement home, and we realized that it was a great moneymaker. So we just kept growing and growing. And then by the time we left our W-2s, we were up to 3 condos on the beach and 2 cabins in the Smokies. So we had five doors, and since the last 5 years, we've gone from 5 to 31. So it's been fun. I'm enjoying it. I remain elusive because I don't like spending a lot of time on it. My plan is to go play golf, and I'm playing pickleball now, which is interesting. And get out on the boat and enjoy life.
Which is another reason you're my hero, is because I'll tell Avery all the time. I'm like, man, why am I working so hard? I just want to be more like Pavan and go enjoy stuff. So, congratulations, you've done what everybody on the internet is talking about, wishing they were doing, but they're not actually doing it because they're too busy. I don't know what the hell they're busy doing, quite frankly, but you're enjoying life, and I admire that. It's a wonderful thing. Now, the retirement and the scaling, were those like, you didn't retire with the idea of ending up buying 20 more properties, right? You were retiring regardless.
I was supposedly retiring, and then like for real. And then when we moved down to Florida from Ohio and got settled, I had time. I had time to think. I had time to, not stay out of the bar. Something had to keep me out of the bars and out of the restaurants, keep me getting fat. So like, what do we do? Like, hey, this is working, and these deals kept popping. So we were like, hey, let's get into it. So, you introduced us to the Smokies, and we're like, this is a great opportunity. We love it there. We spent more time there, and we started seeing what's happening, and we started growing little by little. And then, as soon as the pandemic hit, we freaked out, and all of a sudden we're like, let's buy. And we bought 8 units in 2021 and 7 in 2022. So we started in 18 and kind of building from there.
Well, without getting into too many details here, let's say I'm brand new and I don't have any money and I'm listening to this for the first time. Can you give us sort of a vague idea of where the capital comes from for all these things?
I mean, we've talked about this before. I talked with Avery as well. You can get partners, parents, HELOCs, savings. Obviously, we touched all of those different types of funding sources to be able to get the money to grow. And now it's to the point where they're buying themselves, right? So the business throws off enough profit that within 1 or 2 months, I can buy another unit if I find a good deal. So my evaluation criteria has changed a bit as well over time. I was always focused on cash return. I still look at that, but I'm also looking at getting a good deal and buying something with equity, or something I can put equity into via doing some, rolling up somebody else's sleeves and getting some work done and do some rehab. So in this market, and Smokies especially, it's been tough to find turnkey. So now we're looking at more distressed properties where we can go and add the value and then take the money out later.
But I'm going to come back to that. But make no mistake, you were a hardworking gentleman in your working life, and you did very well in life to kind of kickstart this whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, we had a great W-2 job. My wife did as well. My wife was an attorney. I was in marketing, so we had two great jobs with a great company. But when it was time to make the move, so we had a base already established. We had properties that were throwing off income as well. Like I said, we had 5. So our goal was to retire off of our rental income, and we ended up to replace the W-2 income, which we did. And then since then, we're at 5 or 6x where we started. So it's been a fun ride. It's been a fun story, and we're still growing. I'm not done yet. People keep asking me, when are you done? I'm like, I'm still young.
What the hell was it? What was that I said I was going to come back to? I already forgot. What was that I said I was going to come back to?
Funding sources?
No. But anyway, let's cover that. So as far as scaling, have you ever considered, let's slow down and maybe just start paying these off, or what? I'm sure if you're like me, you go back and forth on that. One day I'm like, I'm done. I'm never buying another one. I'm going to start taking this money and paying it off. Oh, actually, I remember that other question. But I'll get back to that maybe if I remember the second time. Should I start paying these off? Or, and then the next day I'm like, screw it, I'm going to buy more. I'm still young, still relatively young, maybe not compared to my wife, but I'm going to keep buying, and I kind of go back and forth. How do you handle that? How do you know when enough is enough?
That's a great question. I ask myself that all the time. I have a push and pull internally. I started paying stuff down, then I was like, oh, good deal. And then I'll go buy it. So I'm kind of my strategy now is I have a reserve set for purchases, and if I exceed that, I just start paying stuff down. And so when that reserve gets depleted, like I just bought two, we're closing two deals in 2 months. Now I'll start to save again for the next deal and slow down the payment. So we have the 31 units. I think six are completely paid off. So I also feel like it's a good balance as well. It's a good hedge against if the world stops vacationing, I still have income coming in, or I have less debt that I have to worry about servicing.
Now, when
So
you say that, I assume you're joking, because yeah, because there are people out there maybe listening for the first time that are worried about that, and I can't imagine that's something you're worried about.
I'm not worried about it at all. That's why I'm all in on all in on short-term rentals, man. Like I'm at the beach since 2011. We run 90% occupancy year round. We're at the Smoky since 2017, running 90+% occupancy year round. So even like I said, even through pandemic, even through fires, through hurricanes, whatever else the world wants to throw at us. I'm pretty sure people still want to go to the beach. They still want to go to the mountains, and we have a great portfolio of properties to offer them.
The reason you are, well, many reasons. You're a rock star at this, obviously, but your properties are small, right? That's like that's your thing, and that's why the occupancy is so high. Is that calculated? I would assume.
It is. That's true. My strategy has always been small, cater to the small couples, small families that want to get away. It helps keep our occupancy where I want it. It's a little bit less worry about parties going on, less wear and tear on the properties, even though they're in use quite a bit. Things don't tend to break as often as you do with larger groups. And things, I mean, you have a large group, you have kids, things are going to break whether they need to or not, right? There's a lot of bodies and they're floating around banging into each other, so things are going to get beat up. So I prefer personally the smaller properties. They perform well. I have a couple large ones. The one we just closed is a 3-bedroom in Smokies. We have a 4-bedroom in the Smokies. That was a rehab. That was a good deal. The numbers aren't as great as I have a couple studios that are grossing in the 80s and 90s. So I can't beat that. Even though 4 bedrooms is going to do 100, 120, and the purchase price is going to be 4x.
Well, let's not everybody get excited because I can't do it. I can't do 80 grand on a studio, and I've been doing this a long time. And I've got one studio, and it does like 65 somewhere in that neighborhood. I'd have to look, maybe 70, maybe. Although I'm remodeling it right now, so it's gonna be a love making machine when I get done with it. So, and that's what it's all about, man. Especially with these little ones, it's all about doing it, So, uh, these are honeymoon situations, and you got to have a little love maker, and I know my boy knows a little bit about that. Let's talk about so now you're saying that the down payments just kind of happen.
Right.
How did you like explain that? How many properties did you need to get to? And is this, I assume it's like Monopoly. Once you get enough properties, you just throw all that money in the pot and the fire gets bigger and bigger, and then the properties buy the properties. Is that pretty much what you're saying?
That's what I'm saying, brother. So we started, like I said, with the 5 properties at 18, or what is 17. We have from then on, they've been buying themselves. So it snowballs very, very quickly. Even before that, the first condo we bought was an 11, but the second one in 14, the third one in 17. So it was like 3 years apart of saving profits to buy the next. But after the third or fourth, it really started to snowball very quickly, and it hasn't stopped. So, like I said, we're trying to figure out. We've investigated other markets. Do we want to do other asset classes? Do we do long terms? For now, as long as we can find deals in the markets we're in, this, like we talked about earlier, the systems are in place, the teams are in place. It's super easy to plug in an incremental unit and move on with life. It's pretty much zero extra work on my end to keep it going, because once I plug in the price labs, once I plug into the housekeeping team and all the other tools, it's just like everything else. So it's I don't stress. Once the property's up and running, it's hardened, it's gone through 3 to 10 guests, so all the issues, the kinks are ironed out, then it's business as usual, and I can go back to my day job, which is not doing this.
Golf. So what you're saying is you scale with my favorite method, the way I do it, which is profits and patience. Like take the cash flow and a little bit of time. I think that's the biggest mistake, and not mistake, but when people first get into this, they're so shot out of a cannon. I was the same way. And really, real estate is get rich super freaking slow,
Yep.
So it sounds like patience has been your best friend.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's been 5 years since we started this scaling, right? So that's not a short amount of time. So it took a while to get here. And even before that, 2011, when we first really started,
Yeah.
we're at 12 years in now. So we're finally to a place where I feel comfortable enough to let back. And I'm not also trying to squeeze every single dollar out of every single property, right? The reason I wanted to scale was to be able to have a little bit of um, play in there, to be able to not have to be insanely laser focused on 100% occupancy. If I'm at 90 at a decent rate, I'm happy. So I don't have to worry about that squeezing out the last 10% out of 30 properties. And if there's a hurricane, I have to refund, who cares, right? The system is built to absorb these ups and downs and seasonality, ups and downs and natural events, freezes, snow in the mountains, things like that. So the whole point was, let's just grow and let's operate at 90%. Let's not be 100% operator, because we're going to kill ourselves, and that's no fun.
Well, yeah, yeah. For me, it's all about patience, and really, you've been doing this not only so 12 years, but you're an early adopter.
Yeah.
So that really adds another 10 years. You know what I mean? The fact that you were first to the space, really, I mean, nobody was like, when you first started, you probably weren't even using Airbnb, right?
I did actually. In fact, that you introduced me to Airbnb. I had one listing on there. I wasn't doing anything. And then when I met you, you're like, "Oh, I'm killing on Airbnb." I'm like, "Oh, I gotta get into this shit because it's working." So for this guy, when
It
we
was, and I was madly in love with it. And then you and a few other folks that have been doing this a long time, I've slowly, let's not start an Airbnb versus Verbo thing, but I've definitely come to appreciate Verbo much more over the years. Maybe it's because I'm old now, but anyway, let's talk about your systems before we get into busy season here. So, I mean, how many? I would assume you have employees. Can you briefly kind of describe your employee structure? Who does what, and how many people you have working for you?
Yeah, so we have 5 employees in the Philippines that provide 24/7, 365 coverage. So they're the first level support to all guest inquiries and guest follow-ups and questions. But we have 5 different housekeeping teams, 2 in Florida, 3 in the Smokies. I talked about the last podcast about having backups. So we have backups for backups. And then we have 5 different maintenance teams in the Smokies as well. They're all 1099 contractors. And our VAs, our employees in the Philippines, handle all interactions between guests, housekeeping, and maintenance. And they bring me in if it's something new, which is becoming rare, more rare these days, or something that costs a lot of money, they'll ask me. Otherwise, I was in Key West last week for a week, put my phone away, I checked in the mornings, and then I let it ride for the rest of the day, and everything's being handled. It was a beautiful thing. So they're fantastic. Training, I just listened to your podcast on VAs. Training was critical. And now they train each other, right? So there's 5 of them. If one leaves, a new one comes on, I don't have to train anymore. The current VAs train the new VA. So as long as I don't have complete staff turnover, I should be in good shape, the foreseeable future with my employees. So but having those employees on is very critical to the business, but without them, I'd be dead, right? I mean, it wouldn't work.
Two things on that. Number one, you have VA experience, correct? Like in your former life, you had a lot of experience with going overseas and such, correct?
That's correct. Yeah, my old job, I had 70-ish employees in the Philippines and also some in India as well, doing all sorts of work. I was in marketing, so I had graphic designers, I had email marketers, I had a whole set of different skill sets that I had to work with. I've been to the Philippines. I met the people there. They're wonderful people. And so I wasn't afraid to take that leap, but when the time was right. And in fact, I wish I would have taken it earlier. And I should have, I was greedy. I don't want to spend the money, but now is the best dollar I've ever spent, is getting our Philippine employees up to speed.
And your lovely wife plays a role in the organization as well, right? What does she do?
Yep. So we had to work through. I think you guys mentioned before, you had some growing pains as far as running a business together. And now we've got it dialed in pretty well. I'm responsible for growth, acquisition. She's responsible. She's an attorney. She's responsible for protecting the house, right? So what do we have? How do we protect it? She runs housekeeping in the beach side. I run everything on the Smoky side. She also does our bookkeeping. She loves doing it. So she has a pulse on the expense side of the business as well, and the revenue coming in. So we have a really good system, set of responsibilities split up, but we don't step on each other's toes, and we share an office. Her desk is right over there. So we have office hours. We don't, instead of yelling at each other, hey honey, we have a set amount of time where we talk about business, and then we don't talk about it, for the rest of the day. Which also was becoming a problem at one point, where that was all we would talk about. So we had to fix that. So we've had.
Hold on. What are you talking about when you're not talking about business? Because I don't have anything else to talk about.
There's always something to talk about. We talk about tennis. We talk about this. Like, how was your day? We're good.
Love it. Now, she is a lawyer and she handles the protection side, but correct me if I'm wrong, you don't do rental agreements. Maybe we shouldn't put that out there, but what's your rental agreement system?
So we have rental agreements. We've created rental agreements for every single property. They're in Verbo. They're uploaded there. When we get a direct book, people sign the rental agreements. I don't do rental agreements at Airbnb. So for Airbnb, I'm trying to have as little friction as possible between the guest booking and their experience. So
not even on your listing at all.
No.
Okay.
There's house rules, but there's no, the rental agreement's 8 pages long.
Right.
So I have agreements like in Verbo. There's a space for them. You can upload them and people get them. Direct bookings, they sign them through Adobe Sign. For Airbnb, I don't send them out manually.
Okay, direct bookings. What's your system? How are you doing that?
So direct booking, a lot. The bulk of our bookings, we have 2/3 of our bookings come through Airbnb, and people freak out sometimes about that. For me, as a marketer, I'm happy to outsource my marketing to them. I have an Airbnb account manager. I met with them last week. They're becoming more and more host friendly. So I'm not scared anymore of being kicked off Airbnb or of the bad reviews that you can be threatened with because of the policy changes. So I don't mind outsourcing my stuff to Airbnb, my marketing to Airbnb and Verbo. Direct booking, we do get a trickle amount there. I've spent a lot of time optimizing the site. It's a lot of it's repeat guests. So we get a ton, probably 30% of our business in the beach is repeat. So they all book direct. And
how are they? How's the website hosted? Is this an owner-res thing, or what software are you using?
Guesty for hosts.
Oh, Guesty for hosts. It's very simple. It's a very simple management software.
Yep, simple software. It's a simple booking engine. The website's not fancy. You can look up dates, get rates, and pop in a promo code and book your vacation, and everything's automated. So.
How are you supplying this to the guests? Is it on the refrigerator at the unit, or how do they find it?
Yep, it's on the refrigerator in the unit. There's a promo code for a repeat guest discount, 5% repeat guest discount. It's actually in our messaging as well. With the website's at the bottom, our Facebook page is at the bottom of all the messages that we send. So some people don't get it. They still book again through Airbnb, which is fine by me. But we do get a lot of repeat hits from our messaging and from the fridge sign. And also we have signs outside of every property with our website. I have a big sign in Pigeon Forge on the Parkway on one of our cabins, actually 2 of the cabins right behind the German place that you can actually see with our website. And people book. It's amazing.
Interesting. And what percentage would you say comes from your website?
10%.
10%, and that's direct. It's just a Guesty for Hosts, 1 click to create the website. Obviously, you tweak it once it's created, but it's an easy, simple thing.
Easy. I spent a day on it and it was done. And like I said, I could spend more time submitting to search engines, optimizing it, hiring somebody to do SEO. Hasn't been a big focus of mine. We're 90% occupied, like I said, average. So it's working. Why spend the time?
Well, I can't beat 90%. And I do agree about the Airbnb thing. I feel that we are. I feel that in the past 4, 5, 6 months, really, I've noticed a difference where they're not really crapping on us as much as hosts. And also the review thing. I agree. You can't be so freaking terrified. You're gonna get a bad review every now and then. I've just finished a book this morning. As a matter of fact, they were talking about reviews in this book. It was Everything is Figure Outable was the book. It's fantastic. I actually heard about it on Avery's podcast, and she mentioned in the book that Harry Potter, the original Harry Potter book, has 12% 1-star reviews on Amazon or Kindle or something like that. And I think I heard from you. This is a direct quote from you. I think even Abraham Lincoln doesn't have a 100% approval rating. Did I get that from you?
I did say that, yes.
Where did you get that from? We're just gonna give you credit, but
It's true.
It is true. I mean, it's true. You can't make all the people happy. What is it? There's a song, whatever. Make all the people happy all the time. Anyway, all right, let's talk about the season. This episode is brought to you by the premier short-term rental Facebook group, Short-Term Rental, Long-Term Wealth. We have nearly 50,000 members. This is the biggest independently owned and operated STR Facebook group, and it has been curated by yours truly, Cashflow Carl. Join us on Facebook. Search the groups for Short-Term Rental, Long-Term Wealth. That's Short-Term Rental, Long-Term Wealth on Facebook. It's coming. It's coming. We're recording this in February. So it's not going to come out, but we might be mid-season or mid-spring by the time this comes out. But I think it's still timely and topical to talk about. First, let's cover what you've done thus far this winter, especially with all these units. Maybe give us an example of what we should prepare for. What I should prepare. Maybe a noob should prepare for next winter, because it's too late for this winter. That's long gone. But what did you do over the winter? And I'll throw some stuff I did in there as well, but you go ahead.
Yeah, just one thing. I always hear people talk about, I want to be in a 12-month market, right? I don't want seasonality. I want to stay booked year round, which we actually tend to stay booked year round, but there's always going to be a slow or low season, right? So in the mountains, the Smokies, it's January, February is a slow season. And with a little bit of May and August, September is a little slower. At the beach, where I am, at least in South Florida, we have our slow season when school gets out till about Thanksgiving. So that's the time where we get our properties ready for the busy season. Because once you get busy, it's balls to the wall. There's no breaks. If you didn't address an issue earlier, you're going to lose a lot of money by taking it out of service during high season versus taking it out of service in low season. So you have to, one thing is block your property. We always block at least a week or two minimum at every property during low season, just to refresh the property, whether it's paint, floors, countertops, just something, appliances. This year we learned heat tape, right? I had heat tape on plumbing underneath the cabin because it froze. I had 5 cabins freeze, and they were frozen for 4 days. So now I have heat tape on there. I got a smart plug on there, so I can turn it on and off manually. I have a space heater down there in one of the crawl spaces where I couldn't put heat tape on within well house. So keeping your pipes warm. Something I learned this year after 5 years of the Smokies. It was freaking freezing.
Yeah.
And never got that, right? So hardening your properties, getting them ready for the season, because they will get beat on and people start coming in and out constantly. We'll take the time. And with our snowbirds, it's really funny because we have people that have been coming to our condos for 5-6 years. Every single change we make, they notice. And I say, hey, I like the new microwave. Or, oh, I like the new paint colors. Or, oh, I like the new table you put in over here. So it's also kind of nice from a guest experience perspective to keep your properties fresh and change something, because your repeat guests will appreciate that. And it keeps them coming back because they want to say, oh, what will they do next time? Let's see. So this is the time. Look at your rates. Get your rehab projects done. I know you guys talked about that earlier. We're adding a bathroom. We're adding a shower in one of our bathrooms right now to go from a 3.5 to a 3.2. So this is the time to bite the bullet, give up a little bit of revenue, because it's a little bit compared to what it could be based on the improvement and based on the time of year where you're going to get that money back. So getting ready for season is critical to be able to take the time and do it right, and even give up weeks of service to be able to get the jobs done.
Yeah, I'm going through it right now. I'm rehabbing 2 houses. They were sort of I kind of fell into these rehabs on these actually. These were basically the last 2 that I had not redone in recent past, and it was the same. It was a very similar situation in both of them. I went to do new floors, And there was subfloor issues, like a lot of rot. And one particular one, I didn't even know it was there. It turned out the thresholds is a beach house, so there's these big doors that go out to the outdoors there in second floor, and the thresholds had been leaking, and it wasn't really getting to the hardwoods. Now looking back on it, there was a little spot there that I just never really cared about, but underneath it was rotted a little too much, like almost to the point where it's like the first floor was going to get rained on, so we had to rip all that out, all the subfloor, do all new subfloor, getting ready to put the vinyl on top of that right now, as a matter of fact, to get it ready to go for busy season. And the same thing in one of my cabins. That one was actually, I knew it was happening. I was trying to put it off though, but it got to the point where it was too late, and it just happened to be January at the time, so it was time. And that's another, it was similar. I think you've even been to this house. This one very small little Smoky Mountain cabin, 600 square feet. And I had a leak coming from the shower head. And so I just had that shower redone previous slow season. And so I sent the guys over there, the guy that did the job, and they opened up the wall behind the fridge, which is the opposite side of the wall. And the shower head was the pipe going to the shower head was cracked. So in other words, back to the getting it on thing, somebody probably reached up and was holding on to the shower head and pulled a little too hard, and it was still functioning, but back in the wall it was leaking. And if you get a little leak like that that's in sheetrock or in behind the tile, a lot of times you can't find that for a long time until you get some sort of mold situation, and that's what happened to me. So we got the leak fixed and then put it off until January. This was in the late fall when we found this. And then basically just opened up that whole wall, took all the sheetrock off, and fixed the issues. And then the subfloor came out. It had hardwoods, which that was heartbreaking because they were beautiful, but they were, 25 years old. And because of all the moisture, they were getting cupped and things. They weren't savable. So they had to go. And then we did all new subfloor. But in the process, I'm happy to say I did rip out my very last Smoky Mountain jacuzzi tub, which in this house was in the kitchen, believe it or not. It was between the kitchen and the bed, which the bed is in the living room. Again, this is a little lovemaking machine. One room, there's no modesty happening in this little tiny house. But so I'm wrapping up those two rehabs right now. And just to give anybody an idea, I mean, those are pretty extreme examples. I mean, these are fairly large jobs that I'm doing here. I am I'm replacing the tub's gone. I'm putting a washer dryer there, and now it's going to have a full size fridge. It used to have a tiny little like 30-inch fridge, going to a 36-inch fridge, and a full size stove, which is very exciting because it had one of those little teeny tiny dorm stoves. But again, this is a pretty extreme example. This is a property I've owned for quite some time. It is paying for all of these rehabs itself. And the equity is ridiculous at this point on that property because, again, I've owned it for quite some time. And so I'm happy to do the rehab. It's like I have little kids, and we watched, what was it, Sing, Matthew McConaughey the other night. And is it Matthew McConaughey? Yeah. And he said, I'm going to sell enough tickets to get the old girl painted, referring to his theater, And again, if you have kids, you'll know what I'm talking about. And that's what I feel like right now. Like these properties, they deserve it. They've earned it. And if you don't take care of them, it's like you said, they're going into war. They're going into battle, for like 9, 10, 11 months a year. And so you got to keep them sexy and clean and shined up. But any specific examples of what you've done this year to kitchens or, like, have you done any countertops or anything like that?
The countertops, I'm doing, and Smokies, I'm putting a butcher block. And one of the condos, we just put in forts. We put all new floors in. We did all new paint. We painted every single condo just fresh. And we actually standardized all the colors as well. So I know we haven't talked about that, but standardizing as much as we can. So every condo has the same living room, bedroom, kitchen, bathrooms are all the same color. So I only have 4 cans of paint now instead of 20. And same thing in the Smokies. We're standardizing linens. So we spent time inventorying what we have. Just as part of the deep clean process in the low season. So deep clean, inventory, paint, floors, countertops. I think that was and that was multiple times over and over again to try to get things ready and be happy for season.
Yeah, same here. The standardizing thing is huge. I fell into that on accident in my long-term rentals, as a matter of fact, because I was doing so many of them with the same guy. He was getting annoyed, and he was like, "I can't keep track of these colors," and I didn't even think about it. I was just like, "Yeah, here, use this color," because it was life is busy. You get busy, and so I fell into it, just by accident. Like, let's just use the same color on everything. And it was like, what? Wait a minute, that sounds way too simple. Why would I? And I've actually struggled with that with my short terms a little bit because this one with the shower head issue. I'm putting the same vinyl in that one that I put in my big Smoky Mountain house recently because honestly, because the product was very nice product. It's very good looking, high quality vinyl. It wasn't cheap. Um, but I said, you know what? Those floors are kick ass. I'm going to use those again. And it did cross my mind. Like, what happens if somebody's scrolling through my properties and they see that my floors are the same? They're going to be turned off, that they're not like, perfectly designed by Chip and Joanna or whatever. And then I quickly snapped out of that. Nobody gives a crap. Somebody that's shopping for a house, they're not going to be shopping for a 4-bedroom and a 0-bedroom. It's two completely different set of eyeballs.
I have this flooring in 4 different cabins in my house. I like it.
Yeah, yeah. If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
When I go there and stay there, I feel at home. Like, oh, I'm home.
Yeah, that's true too. And I walk into one of my units and I know what the Sherwin-Williams color number is, and there's usually at least like a half gallon laying in the closet. And even if there isn't, let's say I'm going from one town to the next, I can go to one of mine in the town I'm in now, grab a bucket of paint out of the closet, take it with me because it's going to be the same damn color. Simple is really the way to go. Same countertops on everything. What about the butcher block? Where are you getting that? And is it straight from the box store or?
I'm not sure yet.
Okay.
It's happening in a week or two, so my guy's going to source it and make it happen.
Yeah. I got one guy that makes it himself. I think it's fairly easy to do, really. I don't know. He makes it seem like it's easy. I've never done it. But okay, cool, man. So as far as you're in both beach and mountain, when can you expect the bookings to start to flow in? Like, are you already getting booked for the season as far as occupancy is concerned? How are you looking?
So I keep my calendars open 12 months on a 12-month rolling basis. It seems to work well for me. I use Price Lab for pricing, so we have a super far out pricing premium tagged on there, so I don't mind keeping it open that long. If someone wants to book Christmas at 3 times the current normal rate, that's fine by me. For the beach, we book spring break a year in advance. As soon as people get their spring break dates, they want to book their vacation because it's so popular and it fills up so fast. So I've had spring break booked since last year, and they're booked at good rates. So it's not like I could have held out and maybe got $100 more or whatever. It's definitely Price Lab's pricing is doing its job. And I know you guys talk about seasons. I have no seasons. I have one minimum rate.
You mean on Price Lab seasons?
Right. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Not utilizing the seasons.
Oh, and in some cases I don't even have numbers. I just let Price Lab just do its magic.
Wait a minute. You leave the min, base, and max completely empty?
Completely empty.
All the time or just occasionally?
All the time.
Really?
Really. That's like gambling. It's fun.
It's like waking up in the morning and looking at the stock ticker.
Yeah, it's fun. Go. I got the booking. Look how much it was. Yay.
Wow, that's fascinating. These are condos that are booking a year in advance?
Condos book a year in advance. The condos I have minimum and I base pricing on. Some of the smaller like 2 small cabins, I have zeros. I have blanks in Price Labs. It was a test just to see what would happen, and I can afford to play around with it. But yeah, the condos book a year in advance and for spring break. So we're booked, and the snowbirds also rebook a year in advance. When the snowbird wants to come, they'll inquire back in November, December. Hey, I want to book for January of the following year. Do you have availability? And most of the time I don't, because I have people that constantly rebook over and over again. So when they check in January 1, I'll have the January 1 through March already blocked for my snowbirds. And then as they are in their stay, I'll ask them, hey, do you want to rebook for next year? And 90% of the time they say yes. So then I'll just send them a quote, lock the rates in, and get on and move on.
How many snowbird units are we talking?
So we have 4 condos. We have snowbirds in all 4 units. We have 2 to 3 repeat guests per season that come through. So they'll come for 4 to 6 weeks at a time. I have an 8-week guest that comes in the fall, which is great because that's low season. So at the beach, so she'll come for 4 weeks in the fall and stay at a nice rate. So that condo is probably 50% booked with repeat guests.
Same person every year, pretty much.
Yes, same people, and it's usually a couple that's retired. And they'll have like the friends rotate in, a couple a week. We'll have a different couple there with them for a week or not. It's been great. I love them. They take great care of the place. They buy stuff and leave it there. So when they're back the next year, it's there. They sometimes they bring their own linens. Sometimes they bring their own dishes because they're used to what they want. So they're the best guests, and I love having them, and they love coming. It's a win-win.
Any nuances with preparing a condo for busy season as opposed to a single family?
Not really, man. It's the same. Just make sure it's clean, make sure it's deep clean, make sure your inventory is there, make sure the paint's freshened. The condos, they get beat a little more because they're smaller. I think you have the people pack more people in. The sand gets everywhere, as
Sand. Yeah.
But other than that, it's just the motion's the same. We have 2 different cleaning teams in the beach across 4 units, so they back each other up. That's all they do is beach clean terms. So they know what they're doing, and they're very skilled at getting the sand off.
Do you have a sand system? Because every now and then I do get somebody that says, "Hey, there's sand in the house," like the 2 little things in the corner or whatever. The sand. Now you also got to understand. We're talking two Midwesterners here. Pavan and I could not be from more landlocked areas. He's from Ohio. I'm from Nebraska. There's no freaking sand, right? So this sand, it does get under my skin a little bit, for lack of a better way to put it. I love the beach. We both moved to the beach from the Midwest. But dude, it gets everywhere, and every now and then a guest will say something. And anyway, do you have any sort of sand system at all, or you just let it roll?
Our biggest system is just people bringing toys into the condo constantly, buckets and shovels and noodles, and we get rid of all of it. As soon as it comes in, we get rid of it. Even though people like having it, it's a nice amenity. It holds onto the sand, and the sand spreads all over the closet and all over the floors. So the biggest system is anything that can be a carrier of sand gets pitched. No, we don't keep umbrellas in the unit. A, because they break, and B, because they have sand. They're just covered with sand constantly. So whatever can come into the condo and bring sand with it, we get rid of it. Coolers, we do leave coolers, but we make sure we wash them between guests. That's probably the only thing that we actually do leave. And boogie boards, we'll leave those because people like them and they're kind of expensive.
It's interesting. I don't know that we've ever talked about this, but my system is the same. Of course, you've been doing beach way longer than I have. Mine are single family. I do have a townhouse, but so at my house, the noodles and all that stuff never makes it into the unit, except for my townhouse has like a little entryway. It would never get up to the sleeping area. But same thing with me. Even though they're staying outside, these floaties and all these boogie boards and all this stuff that people are bringing with them, I still ditch it because it just gets gross. It's like, first of all, it's a used noodle. Lord knows, who knows what gross stuff is going on there, and people out in the ocean. But I just ditch it just because it's gross. So interesting that they're bringing it into the unit.
It was a condo, so there's nowhere else to put it. So they bring it in the closet. And then the other thing was we ripped out all the carpet. We actually had carpet in 2 of the condos. So the carpet was gone pretty quickly after we got in, just because it holds the sand and just let it go. So it's just tile floors. I think it's laminate in one of them. The tile holds up really well. And then with the tile, we even do the baseboards with the tile too. So you can kick it and knock into it, and there's no damage.
All right, let's talk about like items that you stock your unit with, and stuff that you change. And we'll still stick with the beach just because we're on the subject. It is beach season. And here's what I do, and I'll have you add to your system. Add your system to it. Wagons and chairs, etc. I do get a beach wagon. I'll just go to Amazon and Google or search for a beach wagon. Is one way I'll do it. And you got to get the ones with the really big wheels.
Yeah.
And they're blue. I don't have a brand name off the top of my head, but I just started doing this about 2 seasons ago, supplying the wagon and the chairs. And nobody really says anything either way. Like they never really said anything before I had them, and they never really say anything now that I do have them. So I don't really even know if they're using them. Of course, my main big giant beach house is a good 2.5 blocks from the water. So maybe they're not dragging it down there. I don't really know, but I personally do feel better having them there. I want to know that my house is providing. I'm providing a better product than anybody else. So I do the beach wagon and I do the chairs. I get the Tommy Bahama chairs. Seem to be the way to go for everybody. You can get them at Costco. By the way, they're on sale right now. They'll probably be on sale now until high season. $30 a pop. The backpack chairs are what you're looking for. Are you? Do you agree with that? Is that what you're using?
So we actually have our condo complex provides chairs on the beach for all guests. So there was a time a few years ago where they didn't have enough. So we had those Tommy Bahama chairs. Like, I mean, you have to replace them every year, like
Every year.
rust. Yeah. Now that we have enough chairs on the beach, we don't supply those. We don't supply umbrellas, like I talked about earlier. People can rent them for $30. I think it's $60 for the week. You can rent an umbrella, which is a nice big professional canvas umbrella that they drill a hole in and pop it in there, so it's not going to fly away. So to be honest with you, all we really provide is what people leave behind: boogie boards, coolers. We'll definitely provide cooler. In fact, I even took all the ice machines out of our ice makers because we had a leak and that sucked. So no ice maker. They can buy ice. They can make ice in the ice tray. We provide a nice place for them to live. So fully stocked kitchen. Beach amenities wise, it's really minimal because you're at a condo anyway. So the chairs are there, the umbrellas are there. All they have to do is grab a cooler, throw the drinks in, and walk down to the beach and have a good time. We'll have Turvis tumblers, right? So we have the Turvis tumblers, since they're made here in Sarasota.
What's a Turvis? What is that? Like a Yeti?
Like a Yeti, but like a clear one. Yeah.
Okay.
Like double walled plastic, double walled.
I agree on the ice machines. I'm ice machine free, with the exception of maybe one property. My big, maybe two properties. My two biggest houses, I do have ice. Now the Smokies, you got well water, so you could end up with some orange ice cubes. It's just not a good idea. So I'm ice cube free, and plus again, it can cause leaks. It's just one more. I had this same. My guys that are doing the one with the shower head leak. He called me yesterday. He goes, "Did you know there's a ice machine supply, water supply for the ice machine in the crawl space?" And I'm like, "No." And I personally put that fridge back in my had to do everything myself days. I took the fridge off my truck, my Dodge, whatever it was, dragged it in there on a dolly, put it in the hole. And no, I had no idea there was an ice machine supply. And he's like, "Well, it's been leaking on this subfloor for Lord knows how long." And I'm like, "Well, look, get rid of it." It just goes to show you, these things can cause problems, whether that they might, like, I didn't even know it was there,
Right.
so I agree with the umbrellas. They're always broken. I've got one house that has a pool, private, nice heated pool, the whole 9 yards, in Destin. And that one, I do supply the big, I get them at Lowe's, Home Depot, the big pool umbrellas with the crank.
No,
but even those, they break.
Yep.
I'm over there replacing those things every 6 weeks or so. And it's just implied, they're going to break. So I do my best to replace them before that happens. Because if a guest shows up and they see a broken umbrella, you could have the nicest $6 million house on the planet. That broken umbrella just completely deflated their vacation. So other things that I do for getting ready for busy season, I change my deadbolts. I hear this all the time, where people are complaining that the end code got water from the beach or humidity, and it broke after a year and a half, and I'm never going to use an end code again. But I'm not here to stick up for the end code. I understand if you don't like it, or the on code, however you want to pronounce it, Schlag, Schlaggy, Schlaggy, or whatever. But I do use those, and I've used them all. I remember when I first started, I was using the $90 quick set. And then I switched to the Schlage with the deadbolt you could turn yourself. Remember those?
Yep.
And those ones are really cool because the batteries last freaking forever. Because the only thing the battery does is allow you to turn the deadbolt. But anyway, I use the N code, and I even before I use the N code, I swap my beach deadbolts every off season because I don't want to think about it. It's $250. I know I'm going into a heavy season with a brand new lock. I got some pretty good confidence that this thing's not going to bust. And quite frankly, I get sick of people complaining about their deadbolts. It's like, dude, it's $250 off of what? 100 and I mean, this particular house that I'm talking about now, these houses are big, 150 grand grocers, and it's just an expense for 250. It's worth the peace of mind, right?
I heard that because to hold up well on the beach. I'm using the Schlage lever locks at the beach. They tend to hold up. They still die.
Oh, with the actual lever.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
FE99 or FE599.
Yep. I have those on a bunch of closets.
Yeah.
I actually have those on an apartment building. I had an issue with this is what you would call a tertiary market, very small town, not far from where I grew up, and it's a 26 unit apartment building with 4 structures, and they have separate entrances and exits, front and back of each building, and they none of them had locks. And so we had an issue. It's right next to a middle school. And we had an issue with some kids. It looked to be, I have, as a matter of fact, I have cameras, just like my short terms. I repeated my short term systems with my apartments. And we've tracked down that there were young kids running through the halls, like breaking stuff, punching holes in the sheetrock and things like that. And obviously that's not good for keeping tenants around, good tenants. So I put those exact ones you're talking about, the Schlage lever locks on. I put brand new doors. This is an older building, it's probably an 80s build, and maybe 90s. And I put the Schlage lever locks, and now all the tenants have the code to the building, and my teenage kids breaking holes in the sheetrock are gone. So pretty cool. What else? I pump my septics every year. I did not. That's new for me. That's new for me. I did not used to do that, and here's why. It's brand new. Can't make this stuff up if you try. I pumped. This is a house that I bought probably 2 years ago, and I had this septic pumped last summer. We're talking, I don't know, 8-9 months ago, not even. And I had a guest message me the other day, and she said that there's backing up, and it turns out her husband was a plumber, so he was helpful. He was like, I can't get this myself. You're gonna need to send somebody over here. But they were understanding. And big house, big 4-bedroom, 3,000 square feet. And so I sent a plumber over, and he goes, dude, your tank is completely full. And I'm like, how's that even possible? How's that possible? I just had this pumped in like July. And he's like, I don't know. He sent me a video, which is, if there's any ladies listening, you don't want to see this video, but it was all the way to the top, And so as soon as that happened, this was like 4 days ago, I said, that's it. And I called, and I have every one of my houses pumped for the season. I'm going to do that every year now for $350 again, for $350 going to the season. Have you had any septic issues or anything like that?
In fact, I had one at cabin we sold together. So at Eagles, we had something back up.
We're the OGs.
Yep, that's right. That was the first one. So I had 3 septic backups this year. So definitely doing them annually.
What do you mean by that? Explain, hopefully the wife's not listening, but she knows. I mean, she knows the drill.
Yeah, that's what happened to you. That was backing up into the
shower or
shower.
Oh.
So I had, just like you, I guess, with Cool, I had this top septic. They came out, within a day or two, and we were able to take care of it. So at first I tried, plumber snaking, which fixed the problem for a day, but it was raining a lot, and that was done. So I actually pumped every single septic tank 2 years ago, thinking I was good. And then had 3 of them back up again this year. So that's on the list.
Who would imagine 2 years? I mean, even in a rental, everybody says, oh, it's a rental, it gets used hard. Yeah, I mean, that is true. But 2 years on a 700-gallon tank, I mean, come on. Yeah. I think what happened on mine, because again, this is a show about management. So yes, this is gross, but it's Part of the gig. I think what happened, mine's actually got a 1,000-gallon tank, which is usually they do that for 5 bedrooms plus. This is again in the Smokies. Anything under 5 bedrooms is probably, I don't know, 750 or something like that. So this one's actually got a 1,000-gallon tank, which, by the way, you can tell the difference between a 750 and a 1,000 because the lids are square on the bigger tanks.
Okay.
So, and I just found that out. I didn't know that, but I think
Listen.
what happened is when I got it pumped last year, they have 2 lids, one for the solid side, one for the liquid side. Well, one that's going to only have liquids, and the other side will have both, I believe. So I think what happened was maybe they opened up the liquid side and drained that and left the solid side. I don't know, or maybe they went to maybe they went to the wrong house. I have no idea. Somebody got a free pump out of me. But that's new for me. Every February now, I am pumping all my septics for 300. I don't know, whatever it is, 350 these days, $400. It's because if you don't do it, and you get yourself in a situation with a field line, then you're talking not only, I mean, it's really not that. It could be $3-4 grand, not the end of the world. Probably, really. I mean, I hate to give numbers out there, but probably less than an HVAC really to fix that. But the amount of pain in the ass involved with a field line is, I mean, it's astronomical. You got to get the county involved and all this other stuff and paperwork and documents and, time.
So no guests. You can't have guests while that's going on either. So you can't.
No. And if God forbid it happens when there's a guest in there, you can guarantee that's a bad review. What else am I doing? What else are you got anything else? I got a whole list.
Fire extinguishers will
dude. I can hug you, please, with the fire extinguisher. What's your fire extinguisher system? You ship them to your cleaner? How do you do that?
Private Save on Amazon, every annual subscription. So yeah, they go straight to the cleaner and they're responsible for dropping them into the cabin. And the VAs know the schedule, so they'll double check. Hey, did you install the fire extinguisher? And then and they put the old one somewhere else just to have it, because it's probably still good. So leave the old one there, put the new one in, make sure there's at least two in every cabin and every condo.
What do you put under the sink or
in the kitchen? Yep.
Yep. Okay. Great. Beautiful. I got one. Check your Rokus. I'm a Roku guy. I don't want to get deep into my TV system, but I'm cable free and I do the Roku stick with guest mode. And those, they actually do last, when I go into one of my units, if it's been 3 or 4 months or whatever that have been since I've been there, I'm pretty confident that it's going to be functioning properly. But you for sure need to change the batteries in the Roku remote and just make sure it's on the right input. I ditched the TV remote and used just the Roku. So, and then
we cut the cord with no landline, no cable. We use Hulu with a live subscription, which is limited by zip code. But I have a same Hulu live subscription for 28 cabins, so I'm paying for it. So you can still get live TV. As you walk in the door, don't have to worry about logging into anything. Then you can bring your own Netflix, bring your own Prime, yada yada. But at least this way, you can watch football when you arrive, nothing to worry about.
You have a problem with them saying I can't figure out how to log in, or you have the cleaners check to make sure it's logged in?
The VAs have the credentials, so if they say, hey, somebody logged out to Hulu, they'll just say, here's a password, and it's easy.
Interesting. I have not thought of that. I've always been BYO password. I'm a YouTube TV guy. Maybe it's not that bad of an idea to just get a subscription for folks that don't have their own. I'm just worried I'm gonna have to teach them how to use it.
Hulu's unlimited screens. So with YouTube TV, I think you have a 3 screen limit. So I use YouTube at home, but for the properties,
is it similar? Does it have ESPN and all that?
Yep, full live TV, ESPN, all the network channels.
Interesting. Cool.
I think it's $90 a month and it's shared across 20 plus properties. So.
What do you do for sheets, towels, cookware, etc.? Do you replacing that every season or not?
During the deep clean, we'll inspect. I use the same, because standardization, same towels, same sheets, same pots and pans, same dishes. So we'll have a spare set of dishes in the owner's closet. And if people break plates, break cups, coffee mugs, you can just pop them out and replace them right away. During deep clean time, I'll order an extra set or 2. We use the same towels. I have 3 sets of towels for 3 different cleaners. That way they know what they're getting. In the beach, we use white everything. In the mountains, we have color stuff. It's just I think it's the well water is like good for white. So we yeah, everything is usually Amazon and Costco.
I'm all Amazon all the time, and I have a spreadsheet for my stuff because I have no memory, and it's the same thing you're doing. It's again, what did you call it? What's your
Strive and save.
No, but you have the same paint color in every unit. What are you calling that?
Standardization.
Standardization. Thank you. Pavan's got a hell of an education, and I do not. Nebraska versus Ohio State is what that is, I think.
Still Big Ten.
Go Big Red. But anyway, so you did go to Ohio State, didn't you?
My son did.
Oh, okay, close enough.
I spent a lot of money there.
Right, yeah. So, but anyway, I have a spreadsheet where each cabin has a different color, not necessarily a different color. I do like to have like the Kings have the same color and the Queens have a different color. I feel like that my cleaners have never said anything about that, but I feel like that helps when they're pulling them out. They're like, oh, this is a King, throw it in that pile, or this is a Queen, throw it in that pile. It would help my brain if I was the cleaner. So I do stuff like that. But, I don't know that I necessarily do a whole new set of towels and sheets and cookware, etc. every season. Probably not a bad idea just to get it out of the way and standardize it again, maybe first of the year or second, February, second month of the year, because it's coming anyway. I mean, it's coming. They're getting used, and that's good. If you're not, here's another thing: if you're not replacing your cookware, you're not making money, because that means that nobody's using it. It means nobody's booking your house. So why would you, if you're sitting around complaining about having to replace this stuff, that means that your business is not successful, right? So,
yeah.
Quilts, that's a good thing to have around for the season coming up, because that's something that cleaners maybe are not going to clean every time. And let's say they show up and they got a nasty quilt and they didn't have, maybe have an extra one in the closet kind of thing is not a bad idea.
Well, some blankets too. We have the same blankets, same quilts for every property.
Yeah, that's great. Send me your quilt link. I'm sick of looking.
Good.
Okay,
Walmart.
cool.
Yeah.
Walmart?
That works well.
Okay, great. Well, what else? Anything else to get us ready for the season? As far as what about psychologically? Here's something I'm concerned with. I have a new VA helping with the messages. New as of last slowdown, so like October maybe. And I am a little worried that she thinks that what we've got going on in up until now was normal,
right.
And then all of a sudden her job's going to get 2 to 3 times more, busier. I don't want to say harder, but busier. Any tips there for being prepared, just for the amount of work?
Unfortunately, my team has been with me for 2 years now, so they've been through high, low, they've been through disasters. We have templates for everything, right? So how to respond to refund requests, how to respond to power outages, how to respond to I can't get up the hill because it's wet or because it's icy. So fortunately, they've been through the entire gamut of a full year, so they know what to do. I think the best thing to tell your team is, hey, it's coming. People will be more demanding. I think your Carolina guy in your last podcast mentioned he's happy to get 4-star reviews when he charges a ton of money.
Yeah, that's funny. It's an interesting perspective. Like, what do I care what, if I'm making dough, who cares, Right.
So, I mean, my guy, we still want 5 stars, and I think we've hosted 10,000 stays, and our average is 4.93, I think 4.94, something like that over that. So I definitely want to, strive for 5. And our team.
Let's talk about that for reviews here as high season comes. I mean, because that's it's no small feat. I mean, you're probably one of the bigger hosts with your own properties anyway in the country. You got to be. So 4.93 out of 10,000. I mean, that's absolutely unheard of. I think I'm sitting at like 4. A little lower than that, 8, 9 maybe. I think it's just barely got an 8 in front of it, which breaks my heart. But how do you do it? I mean, how do you when the bad review comes in? How do you handle it emotionally? Sometimes I get like I'm throwing stuff against the wall. Like, how dare you not understand that my house is better than everybody else's?
First of all, I don't get that invested as you do in that. We do respond to every review. In fact, Tracy does that. That's one of her roles, because she's nicer than I am to people about that stuff. So like you and I think respond very similarly to some instances, but she is nice to the guests. She responds very professionally. We always follow up on a bad review to find out why. On Airbnb you have the subcategories. So I told the VAs follow up on everyone except for value. Like people will ding us on value. You can't ask them why it wasn't worth the value. But if there's anything else, cleaning, location, accuracy, check-in, follow up. Like why did they give us a lower rating on that? Unless it's already spelled out in the text of the review. And then we try to address that for the future guests, and then we'll address it in the reply back as well. So we cater to small groups, so there's less people to bitch.
Yeah.
With a group of 10, one person's not that might affect your review as well. So I think having smaller properties lends itself to, they're in there, they're having a great time, like you said. They're on their honeymoon, so it's got to be really bad for them to leave a shitty review.
Yeah, and just along those lines, you got a house with 12 people in it. Let's go with 10 because it's an even number, or 12's even too, but you know what I mean. So let's go with 10 people. You got a pretty good chance that 8 or 9 of those people, up to 7 or 8 or 9 of those people, have no idea what this house looks like, where they're going to be sleeping in this home, how the shower works and all that stuff. The person that booked it did a little research and they know what they're getting themselves into, but everybody else is just kind of running into this thing blind, which is it's a great recipe for a bad review, because they show up and they're like, this is not what their expectations are. Lord knows where, way over in left field. And they show up and then reality can never contend with their expectations. So that's where a guidebook comes in handy, because you're the person who booked it can share it with the other people. But are they actually going to really do that? Who knows? It'd be beneficial if they did. But you make an excellent point. When you got 9 people in there that have no idea what they're coming to, there's a pretty good chance that 2 or 3 of them are going to bitch and say, I probably would have picked a different house. And then that person who booked is going to say, well, my friend wasn't impressed, 3 stars, and it's really nobody's fault. It's all just kind of a psychological thing. If there was a way to, prevent that other than a guidebook, that would be cool. But, and then I think we're getting to the point where we're asking too much of people. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, just a vacation. It's not that big a deal. We can't sit each one of these people down and like interview them to make sure that they're not going to leave a bad review, So, okay, cool. All right. Well, listen, you've said it all. Anything in closing? You're the GOAT. I mean, you're one of the greatest of all time. We've grown this thing together. You had 3, I think, when I met you. I had 2 when we met.
Yep.
And it's been a quite the love affair. And it's been wonderful to see you grow. And at some point, I do hope to get you into an apartment building or maybe a duplex. You used to have duplex.
I had duplexes. I had buildings. I had a 4-plex, a duplex, single family home. I sold all that. So yeah. I wanted the capital for better returns and more work. But
more work, yes. But had you kept those, you'd still be a happy man. But you had a system cooking there, is what it was. You were now you're firing on all cylinders. And at a certain point, maybe you'll say maybe. I'm still hopeful that I can talk you going back into some sort of a long-term situation. But anyway, man, it's a pleasure. It's an honor.
It was fun.
Anything to say on your way out?
I mean, to people, just be patient. You said it before. To get rich slow. Enjoy the journey. It's fun. It's fun being in the hospitality business. That's really at the end of the day what we're doing. And it's fun letting people be on vacation. Like I love reading the good reviews, which most of them are like, we had a great time. Like, yes, we got engaged on the deck. That's awesome. Like, always makes me feel good. And then the bad reviews come in, I don't get as upset because we get so many good ones. So stay focused and positive. There's always bumps in the road. You can't stress about it. It's fun. It's a fun business. I really do enjoy it.
Yeah, you and I, we come from the rock and roll world where it's all about having a good time, and really that's what we're doing here is we're showing these folks a good time with their hard-earned money, and we love our guests. We do. We can't do it without them. So shout out to the guests, and we hope everybody has a lucrative and memory-filled, fantastic 2023 season. So long-haired Luke, Cashflow Carl, on my way out, I just want to say, don't overthink. Don't overthink it, man. Let it rip. and have a great season.
Okay, roll.